Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Reza-Villa. I'm a student leader here at Wake Technical Community College, and today I will be giving you a short recap about my experience at the 23rd Annual African American Cultural Celebration, which was hosted here at the North Carolina Museum of History.
Hello, I'm Michael Eure, and today I'd like to welcome you to the North Carolina Museum of History's 23rd Annual African American Cultural Celebration. We're going to have a great kickoff, and it's going to be U.S. colored troops, and they're going to also include Shaw University Platinum Sound Marching Band. There are all kinds of people here with exhibits, including Pinkie Strother, who has great replica of Shaw University's historic Leonard Medical School. We're going to interview her a little bit later. We also have Betty Williams, and she is what they call a milliner. She makes hats. And we have Neal Thomas. Wake Technical Community College has a table downstairs. The National Society for Black Engineers is also here. This is fun. It's going to be entertainment in the auditorium. They're going to be storytellers. They're going to be authors, illustrators. Also, we're going to have business, enterprise, and film. We're going to have food, health, and beauty, and they're going to have chefs cooking. If you get in, you'll get a taste of what they prepare. Again, welcome to the North Carolina Museum of History and the African American Cultural Celebration, which serves as the statewide kickoff for Black History Month in North Carolina. Enjoy.
Oh gosh, that whole entrance was pretty darn exciting. Like just seeing the troops come in was, exciting.
Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the 23rd Annual African American Cultural Celebration here at the North Carolina Museum of History. I am so grateful to be sharing space with you all today for our official kickoff of Black History Month in our state. This year's theme, Our North Carolina, Expressed Through the Arts, is incredibly important. It honors and explores the ways that African Americans in North Carolina have created art, historically and in the present, in so many different ways.
And now I'd like to introduce you to the 100 Men in Black Ensemble. They were formed under the direction of Marlon E. West in Durham, North Carolina in 2003.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
the 23rd Annual African American Cultural Celebration has officially begun. We've got a big crowd in here, so we're going to try to divide out as groups. For those that are interested in heading into the Story of North Carolina exhibit, you will follow the USCT. For those who are interested in performances within the auditorium, please follow the Shaw U Marching Band.
Probably the most interesting thing that I saw was just everyone's wardrobes. I saw these vibrant colors and these vibrant patterns, and I couldn't help but to think back to, my culture as well. We have these things called camisas artesanales, which are some shirts with colorful patterns, just like the shirts that a lot of the people are wearing over there. On top of that, we also have these things called gabanas or sabanas, or, as Americans call them, ponchos. It's full of vibrant colors and patterns that I see similar to a lot of the people's wardrobes. These headscarves and these masks and these outfits that people were just wearing, it just reminded me so much of home. I mean, for me, one of the most eye-opening things was learning that Raleigh once had its own medical school. It was actually at Shaw University, and Miss Pinkie Strother did an amazing job bringing that campus, that individual building back to life. It showed not just the building from the front, but it showed what it would look like from the inside. She spoke with passion and conviction on just the history in general, which is rich itself. And the fact that I didn't know this before I went over there is pretty crazy.
This is Strother Davis.
And this is Pinkie Strother, and we collaborated on the diorama that's standing here.
It is the Leonard Medical School, and we chose the school because it's historical implications. It is the very first four-year college in the United States. And it started in actually 1881 by Dr. Tupper, who also was responsible for establishing Shaw University. Now, Dr. Tupper wanted this school to be a premier college like Harvard. And so that's why he made this school a four-year college. But the college closed in 1920 because of the lack of money. And so it wasn't able to continue to operate, but it did graduate 400 doctors. And I had more interest when I found out that my great-great-uncle was a graduate of Shaw.
The diorama took us about 6 months to make from beginning to end. There was a research period where we went to the actual location, took pictures, did sketches. It's made on a 1-inch scale. The figurines were made and molded and burned and then painted. And then everything was placed and formatted to create the illusion of the actual history of the school. Most things were made by hand. All the accessories were made by hand. and it breaks apart into 3 different phases so that it can be transported.
I will be honest, as a Mexican American, I will say I definitely noticed a lot of similarities between both of our heritages. I mean, there was a lady who was out there making hats and was talking about the rich history behind the hats. And, you know, as someone who grew up, you know, in the Mexican household, I understand we have our own types of hats, like sombreros, you know, that we use not only like in places like rodeos, but also like out there in the fields. I mean, I understand the importance, and seeing her being passionate about it, you know, just made me feel whole. Because I mean, it just shows that, you know, even though we are 2 very different groups, we have a lot in common. Like, she values the hats because it represents freedom, especially with the feathers in hats, which were some of her creations. We have feathers in our tejanas, which is some of our hats, and they both represent, you know, freedom, being free like a bird.
What is that name again? Tejana?
Tejana. So yeah, a tejana is a type of sombrero that's made. You know, it's called tejanas because it was from Texas. It originated in Texas.
My name is Betty Neal Williams. I'm from Rockingham County, Reidsville, North Carolina. I grew up with my great-grandmother, Mary, who was a midwife. I learned to make hats from her. She was a midwife. She would travel from the wealthy white homes, and in those homes, they would give her scraps, old hats. And she taught me how to take those old hats and turn them into brand new hats. And that's how I learned to make hats. I would walk with her from home to home as she delivered babies. She would take those old hats, give them to me, and we would return to her home, and we would sit down and we would refurbish those hats, make those hats, give them to the poor people in the community so that the Black people in our community could have beautiful hats to wear to church on Sunday mornings. Poor people always wanted to look good. That's the culture in the Black community. We like to look good. We didn't always have money, but we took pride in how we looked, okay? And a hat was a status of looking good. We would take feathers from the fields, flowers from the fields, and add to those pieces of fabric that my grandmother would collect with me as we walked from home to home in Rockingham County. That's where my desire to make hats came from. And as I elevated and learned more and more, I learned to make hats using felt. But in the beginning, we used fabric like cotton, silk, old guana bags, and I'm sure you guys know guana sacks from the tobacco fields, and cotton from the cotton fields, whatever we could get. That's how I learned to make hats. That's where my love of making hats came from. I'm not out to make a nickel or a dime. I'm out to give back to my community because God allowed me to live this long to be able to give back. And I hope that somebody would want to learn to do what I do and pass it on to the next generation. The hats that has the most value to me are the hats that I remember my grandmother making. The great-grandmother was the hats with the feathers. Feathers represent freedom. Birds flew freely in the air. So if you see any hats here with a feather in it, those are the hats that I cherish the most. Feathers were the birds. They would drop the birds, would drop the feathers, and I would run out and collect those feathers, okay? And put them in a hat, clean them up, and put them in a hat. So feathers represent freedom of movement. So they mean so much to me. Or a pretty little stone or a pebble. Those are the hats that mean so much to me. Anything you see with a little shine to it, a little glitter to it, that's natural. That comes from the earth. That's what means a lot to me. Not the man-made stuff, but the natural stuff that comes from the earth. Because Mother Earth, come on, be real. What's more valuable than the earth, the natural things that God gave us? That's free to us. It don't cost a fortune to live. This is natural. This is our earth. This is what God gave us. And we're here to enjoy it and to take care of it. So a feather, a stone, a pebble, a rock, a leaf, a flower, they're all natural. I've taught some of my nieces, my nephews, my goddaughter, I'm training her right now. If you look down, you'll see some of the beautiful work that she's doing right now with head wraps, and she's doing with plants, because I want her to know natural things are beautiful things. And we gotta stick to nature, because it's free. Nature's free.
it's just inspiring seeing everyone's enthusiasm and conviction to their own hobbies that come from just their own lineage, come from generations that were passed down generation by generation. Seeing everyone bring things back to life and celebrate it in this celebration, it was just eye-opening and inspiring and incredible.
What's so important about this, one thing I've learned is that everything that you learn in school is on stamps and on money. American history is chased through its money and stamps. In the subject you want to find or study, you can find it in the stamp. So first I'm going to show you this quilt to my right. This is the African American experience in America. It starts out with kings and queens. They came and got us and brought us to these shores. We had abolitionists. An abolitionist is a person that abolished slavery. It's a person that led the Underground Railroad. This year, Harriet Tubman turned 200 years old. This year is her bicentennial year. This year they put out a gold coin, a silver dollar, and a $50 in her honor, okay? They commemorate her, why? Because of the Underground Railroad. But she was just one abolitionist. There were several abolitionists that you'll see back here on this Underground Railroad map. This map here shows you the whole network of the Underground Railroad throughout the whole entire United States. This quilt is the Black Heritage series. The Black Heritage series started in 1978 with Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman is the first African-American woman to be on a stamp in these United States. In closing, I'd like to say to you, learn your history, collect your history. This history is rising. This is a wonderful way to learn about who you are, where you come from. We have a rich history, and now it's recorded on money, and it's recorded on stamps. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate you, and I wish you Godspeed.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy was pretty creative with his art. I mean, he calls it mixed media, but I can see it as the future. He doesn't believe that, keeping your heritage is just redoing it over and over again, replicating what we did in the past, but he thinks of it as implementing it into the future. All these masks that have been made back in the past, he's 3D printing them with his own twist. He involves lighting, electrical systems, circuits. I mean, there are so many big words that I can't even remember that he was trying to include in his art to make it stand out more. It catches your eye because it's something we've never seen before, and that was probably why I really liked his presentation itself.
I am an artist that is very focused on bringing traditional ideas and practices into the modern day. And the way I do that via these, tinier sculptures or my collages or the bigger sculptures is by using very modern techniques. So the mask that you see here, the mask that I'm sanding, a lot of pieces from these sculptures are 3D printed. And that allows me to get a very fine level of control and do some things that I might not necessarily be able to do with just my two hands. So the head on this piece is 3D printed. I work a lot with circuitry. I work a lot with electroplating and just other very modern ways because, I don't just want to keep this tradition alive by replicating what we did in the past. I want to truly, adapt it to the modern day. So, yeah, just a little bit of what I do. Thank you.
Oh, well, so what inspired you to just be like, hey,
I want to go out there and make these sculptures. Like, what was it that just clicked and made you want to just start?
Sure. So I went to school originally for engineering. And, there was a point, I think around my junior year, where I had taken some time off. I went to go work at a firm in Elizabethtown. And wasn't for me. Let's just say that. It wasn't for me. And when I got back to school, I was like, I can continue to do this and go into a field that I know that I'm probably not going to like for the rest of my life. Or I can switch to doing something that I do really enjoy. And, that was kind of the start of it. I ended up switching my major to anthropology, which allowed me to be in these spaces where you can see artifacts and things from the past. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be creative with it, and I want to do it in my own way. And, I ended up getting a studio downtown. I ended up, just doing a lot of different things with the art. And that's how I got to where I am today.
Neal Thomas, and I stayed at Wendell, and I've been making them about 55 years. And I have to go down in the woods and cut my tree down and have to feel it and stuff and see how it feels and stuff. That's the only way I can tell whether it'll split or not. And so all of them won't split. You got to pick out the one with a split and everything else, because when you get them to the house and you don't have the right one, you can't get nothing out of it. And so I kind of feel them when I go in the woods and stuff and see how they feel. If you got soft bark on them and stuff, they'll split, but if they ain't, they won't.
What kind of trees do you use?
White oak.
And are they easy or hard to find?
They're hard to find. You can't hardly find them no more. I mean, it used to be plentiful, but they ain't plentiful no more. You can't hardly find them no more like they used to,
Is that the only kind that will work for you?
Yeah, that's the only kind of tree I can make them out of, white oak.
So you actually find a tree, you either chop it down or get someone to chop it down.
Yeah, I take the chainsaw and saw it down.
You saw it, and then tell us what you do. You have to get it home, right?
Yeah, I have to saw it down and then load it up on my truck and carry it to the house. And then when I get to the house, I have to take my wedges and axes and maul and stuff and bust it up and quarter it up in pieces, And then when I get it quartered up and stuff like that, and get it down in little small pieces, I take my butcher knife, what I got, and trim.
How big is that knife? The butcher?
About this long.
Okay.
About this long, and then I trim the wood down to wet some splits. And then when I get them trimmed down to wet some split right there, I take my knife and start it, and then I pull it out piece by piece until I get out enough to make a basket. And when I get enough to make the basket, then I start putting my basket together.
Let's look at the bottom of the basket here. You start by making the base, right?
Yeah, I put my bottom in first. I lay my bottom down, and then when I get my bottom put in, I turns it up, and then I start to get them splits out. Then I start to weaving it up from the bottom to the top.
So you start with the bottom, and you make these pieces, kind of like the spokes of a bicycle.
Right. Them they the ribs of the basket right there. Them the splits right there.
And then these are the splits. This is all white oak.
That's all white oak,
How long did it take you to learn how to do this?
Take me 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, take me 2 weeks.
2 weeks of
study doing it. They're trying to learn how to do it. And I was watching a man then do it. I was watching somebody else know how to do it. So I was watching him, and I learned how to do it by watching him.
And you told me it took a while before he said it was a good basket.
Yeah, about 2 weeks before one would stand up like that. They were laying all down when I first started making them, But in 2 weeks, I had fixing way to have to set up like that,
And now, how old were you when you started making these?
About 25.
25.
Yeah.
And have you taught a lot of people to do this?
No, I've been trying to teach somebody how to do it. I help people out to them how trying to teach them how, but they don't stay out there one day, they won't come back no more.
Why not?
Because they say it's too hard to work for them. They won't come back.
It's too hard.
Yes, it hurt the hands and stuff, make the hand bleed all around the fingers and stuff. They say they don't want no part of it. So.
Does anyone else in your family make these baskets?
No, I ain't got nobody to make them. Even my young ones don't know how to make them.
So how long do you say, I know you work in section pieces, but if you were to start and make this basket and work every day for 2 to 4 hours a day, how long would it take to finish
It'd take me two weeks to make one like that.
That's 2 weeks of work?
Yeah.
Is that from cutting the tree or just the weaving?
That's just the weaving, not going out in the woods
Now,
getting the
how
tree.
about getting the wood and prepping it? How long does that sometimes take?
I'll probably get my wood in about 2 days. It probably take about a week and 2 days.
So this could be 3 weeks of work?
Yeah, Yeah, about 3 weeks of work with getting the wood out the woods and everything, Real, I can put handles in the side like that, or either I can put it on the top like that, right there.
And what shapes do you make baskets?
What shape?
Yeah, what shapes or sizes?
Well, I make cake baskets and bushel baskets and half a bushel basket and then 3 bushel baskets. Some of them be 4 bushel baskets. I make them all different sizes.
And some are round and some are kind of oval?
Yeah, I make the square one like that right there. Them what you call picnic baskets.
Picnic. And you have tall ones too?
Yeah, that's an umbrella. The tall one, the umbrella.
How long would one of your baskets last? How long are you going to, if I bought one, is it going to last me a long time?
It'll last you for a lifetime.
A lifetime. If I take care of it, right?
If you take care of it, it'll last you for a lifetime.
It might outlast me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If it's made well, right?
Yeah, I have had somebody that bought one from 30, 40 years, and I have talked with them since then. And they say that basket just like it was when I bought it. This one turned dark.
Just as good as the day they bought it.
Yeah.
40 years later.
Yeah, about 40 years later, they say it's as good as it was when we bought it.
Today, we brought with us an exhibit about George Moses Horton. George Moses Horton was born in Northampton County, which is just across the Roanoke River from historic Halifax State Historic Site. George Moses Horton was born enslaved, and at a young age, he was moved to Chatham County. The plantation that he worked on Sundays, they would allow the enslaved individuals to make money on their own. So they could sell things to make money. They could grow vegetables in gardens. And so he would go to Chapel Hill and he would sell fruits and also poetry that he wrote to the students at the University of North Carolina. After a period of time, the faculty at the University of North Carolina would pick up on George Moses Horton and would help him get articles published in northern newspapers. And eventually he publishes 3 books of poetry, and some of them are published right here in North Carolina. And this is all taking place while he's still enslaved. And he's publishing poetry that is critical of the institution of slavery. In fact, his first book is called The Hope of Liberty. And that's very critical of the institution of slavery. At the same time that he's publishing this poetry, the slave holder, he was getting part of the profits that George Moses Horton was making on his poetry. And so we think that that's one of the reasons he was allowed to do this, is because the slave holder was still receiving profits from George Moses Horton's poetry. When the Civil War happens, George Moses Horton joins up with a cavalry unit. And after the Civil War, he moves to Philadelphia, where he eventually passes away. We hope that maybe you'll all come visit us at Historic Halifax. I have some rack cards here on the table that you're welcome to take with you. We're probably most famous for what we call the Halifax Resolves. So April 12th of 1776, the 4th Provincial Congress was meeting in Halifax, and they gave permission for North Carolina's representatives in Philadelphia to eventually sign the Declaration of Independence. And the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence in North Carolina would take place in Halifax on August 1st of 1776. When you look at a state flag of North Carolina, you will see the date, April 12th, 1776 on it. That date is a reference to the Halifax Resolves. Our first state constitution for North Carolina was also created in Halifax in 1776. Of course, the American Revolution did not bring life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for North Carolina's enslaved population. And so Halifax would go on to become a station on the Underground Railroad. And if you come visit us at Halifax, we have an Underground Railroad trail that tells the story of the Underground Railroad in Halifax County. So I hope that you'll all come visit us someday at Historic Halifax.
Instead of differences, I saw a lot more similarities than differences. Someone who is a minority, grew up around minorities, all I can say is I just see more things that are bringing us together and setting us apart. It was something that was very impactful, very inspirational, even educational. I mean, this cultural celebration has everything that everyone wants. And if you get the chance to attend next year, I definitely do suggest it.